It can be yellow or red or blue. Play with that. But no, you just make it a slightly lighter, slightly yellower version of itself. Hey guys, welcome to a new drawing video. Now before we get into it, yes, I just got out of the shower, so my hair is a little bit all over the place. And since there will be fast moving images, this is a photosensitivity warning, so if you're someone that suffers from epilepsy due to flashing lights, this probably would be a video that you would want to skip. I just wanted to make that known before we get into this. But with that being said, and supposing the people that are sensitive to flashing lights have left, let's get into this. This came about because a friend of mine and I were watching something, and I don't remember exactly how we got on the conversation, but we got on the conversation about some of the original shinies for Pokemon being really lame, and the fact that Flareon, my favorite Pokemon of all time, has one of the lamest shinies I've ever seen because it's only a slightly yellower, slightly lighter version of its original self. So my friend that I was watching stuff with goes, well, picture this, and sends me a blank image of a Flareon, white with like icy blue. And I'm like, well, okay. So for the next like 4 hours, I sat there and recreated my own version of Shiny Flareon and trying to make it a shiny that I would like, and I went with like blue flames. And after I had finished the drawing, she goes, well, you should have recorded that because you like hyper fixated on it. And I was like, thinking about it the next couple of days, and I was like, you know what, there are a lot of things that I'm not happy with and would have fixed in the original version that I did, so I went ahead and redid it yesterday for again about another 4.5 hours, and I got so stuck on it. I was listening to like random videos that I had in my watch later as I worked on it, and I just went ahead and started redesigning Shiny Flareon as I thought it would be. And when I shared the original drawing in my Discord with a friend, he was like, I think that the shiny you're looking for is actually Shiny Umbreon. And I said, no, this is my version of a Shiny Flareon. I don't even remember how we got on the topic or why I got so fixated on it, but I did. And I haven't done any sort of like drawing or anything in a while, so I kind of wanted to do something and make something. So after her having said, well, you should have recorded that because you went like hard on it, I was looking at the original one, and I will show you the original versions that I made. I still have them versus this one, but there were just some things that I wasn't happy with it about. So I decided to fix it in this version, and I am much happier with this version of it, and I don't think I'm going to make changes to this one because I actually like this version and the way it flows and moves. But right now I'm just working on the background because it's always good to start with the background and then you work in layers. I have found out it's easier to start with the background because most of the background is going to get covered up anyway. It's just to give yourself more depth and more detail in your artwork, which is something that wasn't originally in the first one. The background was kind of an afterthought and just there to fill space. I was more focused on the Flareon itself when I did it. So in this one, I went ahead and did more work to the background and added more mountains. And I didn't put a sky in the original background either, which kind of made the drawing feel unfinished to me. So that was another thing I went ahead and fixed. I will show you the original versions versus this version. And another thing I like about doing digital art is if you make a certain piece and you know you want more of that piece to come forward, you could just blank out anything you don't want to keep and then save that piece of the art as its own image, so it makes it easier to like layer and stack things, especially with the same textures, so you don't have to go back through and redraw the same thing over and over and over and over and over again. So it's nice to just be able to blank out the image aside from what you want to keep and make it a transparent picture that you can just add in later. I don't know if that's considered cheating, but it helps, and it's a time saver if you're trying to make backgrounds. I don't know why I lean towards backgrounds so heavily. I feel like without backgrounds, paintings are unfinished, just floating into nothing. That almost looks like snow. But I feel like it leaves them like they're floating in a void. And I like doing landscapes, so doing a background for me not only helps the piece feel more finished, but is also fun because I'm not just like, let's do a character or let's do like an image of a flower or something. I'm like, no, if I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna make a whole background. I'm gonna use the whole canvas I'm given. And I feel like doing art digitally helps layer so much easier. That's the original Flareon. Well, not the original, it's the second version, because I did one version, thought that it was too light, and then I did this version, which I thought I was happy with to begin with, but it's just, I don't like the way the fur came out. The ears look wonky. The fur doesn't look like, the blue fur doesn't look like fire, so you see me tracing over this one to give myself a start. And I do change lines because, like I said, I was not at all, well, I was sort of happy with it, but looking back at it, I was like, I would change so much about this drawing if I could. Namely, I should not have given the second one eyebrows. The shading on the face is too dark. The fur is too dark and makes it look weird. I didn't like the one ear. I didn't like the shaping of the tail fur, and the face was weird. Just, they say you're your own worst critic as you're working on something, and that very much holds true here. Because after I was finished with it and thought I had liked it, I was like, nope. I hate this one. I hate it. So at least that gave me an excuse to remake it and to record my process of making it, because when I made version 1 and version 2, I didn't even think to record it because it was just kind of it wasn't a planned thing. It was just kind of, my friend's like, oh, try to make this, and I'm like, bet, and got stuck on it. I got hyperfixated so hard. Luckily, my friend didn't care that I interrupted the show that she wanted me to watch that night. She was just curious as to how it would turn out. She did that to me the other night. I started working on it again. I took 2 different breaks in between doing this and just put all the videos together. And I don't know when she popped in the Discord, but I got on Discord and waited for her. I don't know how long she was there because I didn't hear her pop in, but she didn't say a word for maybe 2 hours or so. And finally I heard a duck and I'm like, what was that? She was sat there watching me draw this thing for however long she was lurking in the call because she wanted to see how it would turn out. And I'm like, okay, you could have said something like however long ago and I would have stopped. But I finished it last night and then put the video together and let it export while we watched stuff. Which usually exporting slows down other programs in my computer, but it didn't this time, which was nice. So, because trust me, you think this video is long until you realize that all 3 of the recordings that made this video came out to be like 4.5 hours long. This was originally a 4.5 hour video, so you think a 33-minute speed draw of this is long? I was working on this thing for 4.5 hours, and I think it really came out. Although my eyes at the end were like, oh, I need a break. I've been staring at my screen too long. I've been staring too long. My eyes are tired. But it was worth it because I'm genuinely much happier with this final version. And I'm going to say it's the final version because I'm not drawing it again, than I was with version 1 and version 2. Version 1 and version 2 aren't that different from one another. And you'll see that when I put them at the end of this. But since I already was happy with the colors, that made it a lot easier to pick the new colors, or to pick the colors for the final version, because I could just use the eyedropper tool and go over to my second version, to add the colors in. And because originally when I did it, it was much like on the greener side of the blue, and then it went to like the deeper light blue and the light blue, which I was happy with those colors for sure. So once I had those colors, I just used my eyedropper tool, took it to the color, and then applied it to this version. But what I did change was the way the lighting hit the Flareon, which I feel like made it seem more like fire, which you will see in a while. And I changed the body and the fur, because the way I did the face and the fur and the ears were the main reasons I decided to redo it again, because I decided, no, I don't like this as much as I thought I did at first. And I had already deleted the original file because I thought I was happy with it. So I couldn't just go back in and tweak what I wanted to fix. I had to go and remake the whole art piece because I had already deleted the original file and the original like folders and stuff that you see on the side. I already deleted those completely. So I had to go and make it from scratch, which again doesn't bother me because I did end up changing a lot of it, especially in the detailing and in the way the tail flows and in the way the fluff on the head flows. But if you're an artist, don't feel like you need to stick with your original art piece, or don't feel like you're not allowed to walk away from your art piece. Give it a day, an hour, a few minutes. Like, when you're working on an art piece, you're so fixated on how you think it's gonna look and how you think you want it to look in the moment. So stepping back for a while and coming back to it often gives you a break and lets your mind be like, actually, no, I hate this, or no, I want to keep this bit but not this bit, or the whole thing just needs reworked. It just gives you some time to like step back and see things you didn't at first because you were so fixed on what you were trying to do, which is kind of what I did with this. I thought I was happy with version 2 and decided, no, I'm not happy with it. Let's redo the whole thing since I don't have the other file anymore. And I think that paid off. I wasn't too hard on myself about keeping the original, and I'm much the second one, and I'm much happier with this one. But I don't know. I like art. Doing art for me, I very much overthink things. And for some reason, when I'm being creative or making creative things, the overthinking turns off. So painting, drawing, coloring, doing digital art, it's like I was set there. I started at like 9 o'clock, and even though I took a few breaks, one of which being longer than the other two, I didn't finish this drawing until damn near midnight, damn near midnight, because I got so lost in it. And one of the breaks I only took because my brother was like, "Hey, wanna play Need for Speed Carbon?" And I looked at him, looked at the clock. It was 4 o'clock when I looked. I was like, actually, a break sounds really good right now. Like, my eyes were tired. I had no idea it was almost 4 o'clock. I got so fixated on doing this drawing, it was bad. I hadn't got water. About the only thing I did was stop to take care of these guys. Tamagotchi 1, Tamagotchi 2. This one's gonna die tomorrow because they only live to be about 25 and it's 24. And I got an axolotl. I don't know if you're gonna be able to see him, but I could show you. But about the only thing I took a pause for was to take care of these guys. They're so cute. So, that's about the only thing I paused for, and that only took a couple of minutes. And that's why I like OBS, because if you're doing a recording, it has a pause button. It has a pause button, so like if you have to get up to do something, you don't have to cut out a long chunk of nothing. I don't know why they took that out with Streamlabs, and because it just makes sense that when you're recording a video, it has a pause function. Like, obviously when you're live, you can't pause, but that's what the commercials are for. But, yeah, it was 4 o'clock when my brother was like, "Hey, wanna play Need for Speed Carbon?" And I'm like, hell yeah. Side note, that game is very unforgiving and very hard, and intensely fun. So I played that with him from about 4 to maybe 9-ish. And then got on and finished it, so it's not like I was working on it for that long. Oh, it looked like I paused. I was just adding the flame details. So yeah, this whole drawing started because we were watching something and it somehow or other, we weren't even watching Pokemon, it somehow or other made me think of some of the shitty shinies that Pokemon has made. That's hard to say, shitty shinies. And Flareon being one of them, which is my favorite Pokemon, just made me want to redo it. And the one I was watching things with didn't help, because she's like, imagine this, but icy blue and white. And I'm like, I'll do you one better. I'll make another shiny Flareon. And when I posted it to another friend group, my friend was like, I think you're looking for a shiny Umbreon. I said, I do like Umbreon, especially shiny Umbreon, but there's just something about Flareon that I've loved since I was like 14. I don't know if it's the design, if it's... I don't know. I couldn't tell you why I like Flareon as much as I do. It's just the Pokemon that sticks with me. To that note, what's your guys' favorite Pokemon? Does it have a crappy shiny too? Would you change that aspect? And, I don't know if you can post pictures in the YouTube chat, but we could at least talk about what your favorite shiny is. If it's a good shiny, like Gyarados is a good example of a really good shiny, because it goes from blue to red. Or if it's a crappy shiny, like Flareon, which is just a yellower version of itself in a different font. Because, especially the originals, a lot of those are not very distinct, and some of those are actually very hard to tell that they're even shiny to begin with, which is why I think Game Freak might have added the little sparklies to help you tell when it's a shiny. I know that an old friend of mine, when I was still in school, shiny hunted like crazy. One time I came over to her house, and I kid you not, she had like 12 or 14 different DSs of all different styles sitting there shiny hunting on every single one of them. It was like a full-blown spy operation just to shiny hunt, and I'm like, this is crazy. This is insane. How are you keeping up with all of this? But she was, and I guess she was talking about it, and that made me want to try. And at the time, all I had was a Game Boy Micro. Should not have gotten rid of that, but I did. Live and learn. And I decided to try my hand at shiny hunting. And I think it took me somewhere in the thousands of resettings just to find a shiny. And it was a shiny Fearow. That was the first ever shiny that I actually shiny hunted. Like, yes, I've gotten other shinies through trading and through just random catches, but I feel like in the newer games, the shinies are much more easy to obtain. But that was the first and only shiny I ever hunted. And I wasn't even really aiming for that. But I just kept chaining Fearows, so I was like, I might as well make this the one. And after like the 1000th reset or something, I was like, yeah, I don't think shiny hunting's for me. I don't think I'm gonna do this anymore. That was a lot of work for very little payoff. Like, I couldn't imagine shiny hunting in the originals, which I was shiny hunting in Pokemon Ruby on the Game Boy, so that's pretty original. It's Generation 3. But I could not imagine shiny hunting in the original games, because even in Pokemon Ruby, they hadn't perfected the shiny aspect of the Pokemon, I don't think, because they had limited color choices that they could go with. So, doing all of that work to get a shiny that barely by a smidgen looks different from the original would be frustrating as could be for me. And I could not imagine the disappointment of the people that put so much work into shiny hunting one Pokemon they just wanted to see the shiny of, only for it to be like, is it any different? I can't tell. You know what I mean? I would feel so disappointed and never want to shiny hunt again, which I've never shiny hunted again since that Fearow, because I was like, yes, I caught one, but it really wasn't worth it. It wasn't worth it at all. And I don't think I'll be doing it again. A shiny that I really like in that vein, I like shiny Umbreon, because even though it's a subtle shiny, I still like it. I basically like the shinies that look completely different from the original. Those are the ones I like the best. Like, Gyarados is cool. Umbreon, like I said. Shiny, not Espeon. I don't like shiny Espeon. I'm not a big fan of like lime green, but shiny Sylveon is cool. Even Leafeon is more of like a fall leaf versus a new leaf, so that's kind of a neat aspect. And I feel like if they wanted to make different versions of shiny Leafeon, they could do like all the different fall colors, like yellow, brown, maroon, red, because those are all like fallish colors, so that would be kind of neat. They could even do an orange one. But I basically like the shinies that you can tell right off the bat, oh, that's a shiny. But like Flareon and other ones like that are like, why did they even bother? Why did they even bother giving it a shiny? Like, I almost couldn't tell that the Fearow I caught was shiny, because it wasn't that different from the original Fearow. It was like a slightly more muted version of its original self, and I'm like, yeah, I don't think shiny hunting's for me. But I did shiny hunt one other time. But I was helping that same friend get a shiny Eevee. So I was going, she let me borrow her 3DS, which was only one of like 14 to 15 she had. I was like, well, you can help me shiny hunt on this one because I'm shiny hunting on a different one. So that one was a slightly different style of shiny hunting. That one was like, you have an egg and you have to keep hatching the egg and then resetting and going back and getting another egg. And so shiny Eevee is one of these shinies that I like because it's like a subtle icy snow white with very, very subtle hints of blue where the fur is, which is kind of where the inspiration for this Flareon came from. It's like the subtle icy blue. I just think it looks so much cooler, plus it's a fire type, and the hotter fire is blue. So why wouldn't you play with that aspect of it? It just makes it stand out more. Like, you have a fire type Pokemon. Play with the fact that fire can be many different colors. In certain aspects, fire can even be green depending on what chemicals you use to start the fire. It can be yellow or red or blue. Play with that. But no, you just make it a slightly lighter, slightly yellower version of itself. Which I get, yes, they were restricted by the amount of colors they could do. But they still had colors. Make it stand out. I don't know what would be another Pokemon shiny that I would change, because I know a lot of them are very similar to Flareon, where there are very, very slight differences. I don't think there's another Pokemon that I care enough about to even want to make a shiny again, but this was fun to do, to reimagine my own shiny. I know people have done that for a long time, but another similar thing that I've done in changing or adding a Pokemon was the shiny hunting friend. Her and I designed a water form of Shaman because Shaman has its land form and sky form and they never gave it a water form. So we made like kind of a water horse kind of style of look. I don't have the drawing anymore. I'm very bad at getting rid of really, really old drawings and just not keeping them. But lately I use Instagram and stuff to keep my drawings safe. So they don't just get thrown out because they're right there. As long as Instagram's a thing, anyway. But I'm much happier with the final version, and you're gonna see why I'm much happier with the final version, because I am going to show you guys the comparison between each version, so you can see that I'm not just saying, I mean, you've already seen one of them because I'm using that as my starting point, and comparing it and seeing, oh, I didn't like that, so let's fix that in this one. I also lightened the fur texture up a lot because it just made it look dirty in the second one, and the shading was too harsh, so I lightened that way up, and I didn't put any like real lighting onto it as opposed to just the outline being lighter. So I tried to fix that too. And I don't know why, I don't know if you're noticing, but for some reason, my not my OBS, but my Emerge, when I zoom in and out, for some reason it takes chunks out of it, and I'm like, do I have to fix that? Is that a spot I missed? But yeah, this is just me playing around and repositioning it where I wanted to. In case you missed it, I did turn off the background and save the Flareon I just created as a PNG file so that I could add in another one and switch its position because I didn't want it to stay where it was. And now I'm just working on the foreground and putting the final details into things. Adding in more shadows to give it even more depth. There's one more drawing I want to do, not Pokemon related, but my grandma had this calendar, and there's like, it's a log with birds on it, but my brain sees like a forest nymph, a nature nymph, so I wanted to try and make that drawing from log to nature nymph. Like when I get to that, you're gonna see what I mean. What, like, I see a nymph in here. I see it. It's there. But this was a lot of fun to do, and I'm much happier with this version than the first one. And also, I'm adding in the sky because that was something I didn't like about the original either, is that I didn't finish the sky. The background, like I said, was an afterthought because it just didn't occur to me to do that. I'm adding in some flame particles just to give it even more detail. My vinaigrette wasn't working, so I decided to try and make my own just to give them even more of a glow around them. If you're wondering what I'm doing with the circles, that's what I was trying to do. But yeah, and we're just about finished. All I'm doing is putting on the signature and the date on. So I hope you guys enjoyed, and I hope to see you next time.